Liverpool 4, Newcastle 1. I mean, look, if going into that, if you'd have said to me that we'd have beaten Newcastle today, I would have probably imagined that we would have scraped it, maybe 1-0, maybe 2-1, or maybe we would have really struggled. But I think in terms of overall performances, that second half, I think, is as good as we've seen this season from any sort of match. I think Eintracht Frankfurt, Arsenal, Karabag, there's not been a lot of exceptional second half performances that we've seen this season. That is the best, bar none, from individuals, from team performance. A few issues, of course, conceded the goal against Anthony Gordon. Kirk has stood up one-on-one, but the way we stretched the game, the expansive attack and play that we showed, the formation changes, the versatility in that midfield, a lot of interchange between the likes of Gravenberg, so Bosley cutting inside, Wirtz, a lot of different players really played their role today. And for Liverpool now, who, coming off the back of that Karabag win, which came off the back of, coming off the back of that awful loss against Bournemouth, that is massive. And there's a comment coming in saying, poor Lou, Liverpool won, he has to hold off the slot hate for a week. I'll hold off the slot hate for as long as it takes if he's going to put in performances like that. And we're going to pick up 4-1 wins against teams who are competing in the Champions League, who are going to be fighting for upper parts of the table, maybe. You still have some decent players. If Slot's actually going to put in performances like that, I have no problem praising him. And I don't hate Slot. I have disagreed with a lot of what he's been doing the past few weeks, both in the media, both in terms of performances. But that performance showed to me today that we are still capable of putting out a fantastic attacking performance. We're still able to go toe-to-toe with anyone, and we're able to go out there and actually display what Anfield is. And what Anfield is a cauldron, and it's such a devastating home environment. And we've been able to face Newcastle, who notoriously, they haven't beaten us in a long time, but it always feels like it's a match that we struggle with. And we went out there and we dominated them for majority of that match, bar maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. And we were class today. We were absolutely class. I'm made up with the performance. I'm made up with the individual performances. Like I said, a couple issues, but that's just it. It's always the case in these matches. Nothing is ever perfect. Like, the whole performance was close to it, but it wasn't faultless. And people saying, oh, facts, apparently, that I hold off the Slot hate. I'm fine giving Slot his praise when he deserves it. He got it spot on today. And I can't fault him for much of anything. If anything, I think he got it absolutely bang on. We went out there and we tried to dictate tempo. We played brilliant counter-attacking football. Newcastle, with the plethora of attacking options they've got, you've got the likes of, Anthony Gordon's in there. You've got Walter Marde came on later on. Jacob Murphy was another player in there. You've got, Ramsey. You've got Murphy came on. Like, there's so many attacking players who always were going to put us under pressure, and were always going to put us on the back foot. They didn't have the likes of Bruno Guimaraes in there. They didn't have Joel Linton. We took advantage of that, and we dominated the midfield. We hit them on counter-attacks in the first half, which paid off brilliantly. We dictated the tempo, and we controlled the game. And that's what we've been wanting to see. It's all well and good us having possession. It's all well and good us having the ball and trying to control the tempo of the match. But if we don't do anything with it, if we don't actually score goals and we don't actually pose any sort of real attack and threat, what is the point in doing it? You control the game so that you can break them down, so that you can expand their play. You can break down the back line and try and find in between and try to exploit it. We weren't doing that. Now, today, we showed that we can do that. We controlled the game. When Newcastle was stretched out of position, you had Ekitike running through the middle, Wirtz running through the middle. When the play was dictated through the middle of the pitch, we used our wide players to expand them again. It was brilliant in that regard. And I made up that we were able to actually look like ourselves. There are still worries, of course, still a few vulnerable moments defensively. Most notably, of course, the goal they scored from Anthony Gordon, which is a one-on-one situation with Kirkes. We do get pulled out of position a bit. But today showed me that there is still energy in that midfield. There is still a sort of a structure that we can get back and track back and defend. And we're able to win the ball and be aggressive and push forward with it and counter press. And we've not seen that a lot this season. There's not been a lot of fight. And that was a game which really showed fight against Newcastle, who Us versus Newcastle is always a class game. There's very rare occurrences of it being a poor match, but there's so many matches through history for Liverpool. Everyone remembers the 4-3. Of course, that's like the most famous one, arguably the most famous Premier League match ever. But there's so many other examples of us having great matches with Newcastle, and this was just another example of that. The occasion could have got to us. Perhaps the Newcastle crowd could have got to us. Perhaps everything that's gone on recently could have got to us. We didn't let that happen, and I'm made up that we're able to go out there and actually put on a great performance. Good stuff, Lewis. I hope Eddie finds you someone to banter with. Normally it's Dave, but Dave and me sort of it gets a bit too hostile at points. But yes, there will be other people on this show in the future. It's just for now getting into Anfield Index, learning all the ropes, learning all the tricks of trade and everything. This is just me going off on my own, sort of just ranting and spiraling in terms of my commentary, and I ramble on for a bit, but that's the main reason why it's just me. Wow, what a result! So good for Konate. He deserves it for what he had to go through. Yes, and when this season has shown us, I think more than any, that there's a lot more to football than just what goes on the pitch. Obviously, they're humans at the end of the day. The Jota scenario was a massive thing, but Konate, what he's gone through, very well, identical to what Alisson went through back in 2020, 2021, that period of time, losing his dad. You can't account for the effect that's going to have on someone. And Konate, full credit to him, came back into the starting 11 today. And for me, he was man of the match. I know Vert's got man of the match, but I think Konate today showcased a true elite mentality. What a performance from him. And I made up he got that goal, and I loved seeing everyone celebrate with him. Alisson sprinting up to celebrate with him. It was such a touching moment that reminds you that there are bigger things in the world than just a football result. And I'm so made up for Ibu that he was able to get that performance out there today, get that goal, get that moment in front of the crowd. And he reminds you just how class he is on his day. He's had poor matches this season. He's had great matches this season, but my God, that was one of his best, if not his best this season. He was fantastic out there today for the full 90 minutes. Brilliant comeback from that early goal. Ekitike should have got the hat-trick last year. Salah would have scored that goal. He's lost pace. Yes, completely agree. I was saying that through the match. Salah has lost that yard of pace. Kieran Trippier was catching up to him, but it was his decision-making more than anything. The one where he's through on goal and he tries to take it with his left foot, which just goes wide. There's moments he should have shot with his right. There's moments where his decision-making just seems off. I think we're at the point where Salah now is just, I don't want to say he's skating by on his legacy, but it does feel as though he's not offering anything substantial to the team. And that's not me saying, poor performances are happening because he's there. Because today he proved, if anything, we can still perform even if Salah is not performing to his best. Ekitike, Vert are example of that. Gravenberg, what a match from him today. But Salah has lost that output that we consider to be fundamental to this team. His creativity isn't there. His goal scoring prowess isn't there at the moment. He's lost the yard of pace. He doesn't seem to be able to interchange with anyone. He finds himself isolated on the right-hand side at points. And when he does get sort of through on goal, he lacks that killer instinct or that ability to put it in behind. Last season, how many outside of the boot passes did we see from him that led to goals? It was untold amounts. This season, he can't even square it to save his life. So, yes, he's had issues this season. He's still important to keep around the club at the moment, and I do think he will sort of pick up the odd goal here and there. But yeah, I do agree. I think he has lost that pace. Finally, Anfield shows support for the team, and look what happens. Plastics pay attention. Okay. Other than Sobo being out of position, that is Slot's strongest team. We just need to be patient to let them gel. That was his strongest team today, absolutely. And even Szoboszlai at right back, I thought he was great today. He, against the Newcastle team, who so much after losing Isak, all their main attacking threat tends to come from the wide positions. Walter Marde is there, of course, but he feeds off of the creativity from the wide players. Anthony Gordon, Anthony Langer, Jacob Murphy, all those players are there to provide for him. So much of their threat is out wide. And I thought that Szoboszlai today, going against an Anthony Gordon, a Joe Willock who was drifting out there, I thought he had a good game, particularly in that second half. When he did drift inside, it allowed more space out wide for us to utilise. So it was great from him. Love this team. believe. If they can play like that, they can play like that every other game. Consistency is key. They're not going to play like that every match. That's the sad thing. That's just a fact of life. These performances do not mean that suddenly we're going to perform well in every single match, but we need to look at it as what it is an isolated game against Newcastle United, who have given us such a pain in the ass over the years. Like we really struggled against Newcastle over the years. And we beat them. We beat them convincingly, dominated them absolutely through the whole workload of them. They couldn't compete with us in that second half. And that's what we should be doing at Anfield. We should not be getting bullied. We should not be letting other teams control the ball. We should not be letting them get at us and dictate the play. We are Liverpool at Anfield. We are meant to control the gameplay our way, do what we want to do, and win the match. That's exactly what we did, particularly in that second half. The attacking momentum started to prove it. The performance on the pitch prove it. And Ibu, I've got his stats in front of me. Ibu Konate tonight obviously got the goal, 10 clearances, won 3 of his 5 ground duels, 1 is 1 aerial duel, 4 recoveries, 3 tackles, 1. He was committed to every facet of that game. And the same can be said for every other player on the pitch tonight. There was a few questionable moments. I think Alexis McAllister, yes, he grew into it as the match went on, but I'm still concerned by what I saw from him. There was still a few questionable decisions where players were holding onto the ball too long, namely Cody Gakpo, namely, I think Florian Wirtz at points has still got that sort of, he's keeping onto the ball a bit too long. But the likes of Ryan Gravenberch, I think that was a fantastic game from him today. His overall passing percentage, 100% passes successful in his own half, 22 of 27 in the opposition half. His overall passing accuracy of 86%, but his defensive work as well today. He's putting in 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, 1 block shot, 6 recoveries. He won 10 ground duels today. He won 4 of 10 ground duels. He was fantastic through the middle of the pitch as well. Florian Wirtz, as an overall creator of the ball, his work rate, his passing overall was 92% pass accuracy, which is ridiculous for someone in that position, in that higher up area. But he's also touching the ball 52 times, 8 carries, 2 progressive carries. He was all over the place, and he got his goal. And we'll touch on the first goal to start with. That sort of Hugo Ekitike, I'm trying to remember. It was the outside of the boot was the second one. The first goal was the Florian Wirtz passing it to him. And that link up between him and Wirtz is so key to how we're going to progress beyond the days of, Salah being in the team, Gakpo. The link up is so reminiscent of, and I'm not saying it's to this level just yet, because of course it's not going to be to that extent, but Torres and Gerrard is the thing that keeps getting touted around. It feels like that. You've got Ekitike, that naturally strong focal point in attack, who's able to bounce off of the wingers, who's able to come deep to receive the ball, but he's also someone who can play off the shoulder of the last man. And you've got Wirtz behind him, who is capable of drifting out wide, can square the ball across the box, but is also able to create from deep. And it's not to the same extent as them, of course, but it's still something it's a link up that's key. It doesn't feel as though there's individuals in the team who are carrying us. It feels as though there's a collection of players now that are gelling for the same cause. And Wirtz and Ekitike, there's a connection there. They understand what each other wants to do, which is brilliant to see. First 40 minutes was shocking. Last 55 were killer. Let's pick up where we left off. A week off now to rest and recover. Get Gomez back for City. Yeah, the first 40 minutes, and I don't even think the first 40 minutes were shocking as such. I just think it was, we didn't take our chances when they came in until Ekitike came in and just stole the show. That second goal was a prime example of the physical power that he possesses. He is such a great stride with the ball when he gets it. It feels as though for every 1 step he has, there's 2 steps to another player. He is physically so dominant and he's so composed, and he will try things that other attackers don't do. He plays, and bear with me on it, he plays like Nunez did for us, but he can actually finish the ball. And that's not a disrespect to Nunez. That was the main reason we sold, and that was the main issue. Fans had issues with him in the team. But Ekitike has that ability to, He can run with it. He can play off other players. He can come deep to receive the ball. He's physically strong. He's great in the air. He's quick. He's so tactically composed, but he can finish the ball. And that's what Nunez didn't have. And now that we've got that lethal killer up front, that focal point in the center of attack, which Bobby was never that. Bobby was a provider for Salah and Mane. Now that we've sort of shifted away from those wingers being our key players, we needed someone who could take the responsibility and take the mantle of goal scorer, and Ekitike has done just that this season. And today against Newcastle, who a back line of Newcastle, which consists of the likes of, Kieran Trippier, Theo, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, Dan Burn, Lewis Hall, these players who, it's not Newcastle's strongest back line. There's no Botman, who hasn't been around for a good few years now, Fabian Schär. They're lacking any sort of leaders in that back line. It needed to be exploited, and Ekitike did just that. And we've lacked that killer through the middle of the pitch for a good number of years now. When Diaz went to number 9, it worked for a bit. Nunez had a little purple patch a couple of years ago with Salah where there was a link up between them. Ekitike is our killer up top now. And for someone who there were doubts about him when he came in, I was doubting Hugo Ekitike's overall ability when he came into Liverpool. I really, really was. I'm so happy that I've been proven wrong. And this season, he's on 13 goals, 4 assists in 31 matches, 8 in the Premier League, 2 assists, 2 in the Champions League. I'm so happy. He's the first player to score a goal in 5 competitions in his debut season since Kenny Dalglish. I'm so happy that I've been able to be proven wrong by Hugo Ekitike. He's a monster up top, and he looked great today. And there's Walter Marday coming on the pitch for Newcastle, struggling to make any sort of impact. And I love as well I can't say the word, but the Balotelli housery, if that'll work, of him walking off going like 3-1 to Newcastle fans. Love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, he was class. Wirtz gets his goal coming from a Salah assist, which, Salah, for all that we give criticism, he did pick up an assist today. And how many matches did we see last season where he wasn't performing well, but he would then pick up a goal or an assist and suddenly it's all swept under the rug? That's not happening at the moment because he's had a bad season so far. But he did get the assist for Wirtz. Brilliantly composed finish. And currently for Florian Wirtz this season, who, the question marks have been out around him. That's 6 goals in 10 matches and 3 assists in those 10 matches also. That's 9 contributions in 10 matches for Florian Wirtz. And I understand the price tag. I understand there were so many doubts around him. People going, he scored against Burnley. He scored against Wolves. He scored against Barnsley. Who's asked? Because he's contributing now, and he's contributing in a big, big way. A goal and an assist today. Fantastic. For a number 10 who came into this team, and there were so many doubts around, would the number 10 fit? Would he suit the system? Would he suit the style of play that Liverpool want to play under Slot? He's done phenomenal. And I'm made up that we found a way to incorporate him into this team, and he's been able to flourish so much that when Salah's come back and there were doubts over whether or not they could both work together, this is how it is. So for everyone who's saying, a Slot hater, we've picked up a good result, so you can't moan about Slot. I'd rather talk about the positive results. I don't want to see us losing. I don't want to be ragging on Slot. I don't want to be ragging on the performances of the team. I want to be talking about positive things. And a big positive thing is we've been able to turn around to everyone now over these past 10 matches and say all that grief you gave us about the expensive signing that we made in summer has just been proven wrong, because he's finally found his form and he's found his way into the team. Salah to Wirtz and back, their connection will be key for the next few games. I hope there is a connection that can be made between the two of them, because Ekitike and Wirtz is brilliant, as I've already said. And Salah, for large portions of this season, has felt isolated. He has lacked that sort of the give and go with someone that he's had in previous seasons. Even with Nunez, he allowed Salah space to work with because he would draw defenders away because of the speed he had, because of the aggressive nature of his play. Salah thrived off that. Same with Jota, same with Trent. He found someone to bounce off. Now he feels very isolated. I hope that Wirtz can unlock that sort of goal-scoring edge in Salah, and Salah can just stay further forward, not try to come too deep and create, and can just be the goal scorer that he's meant to be. I don't want to see too much from him. Sobber is very good, especially against Barnes, who's in form. That's what I mean. Harvey Barnes coming on the pitch gave us a few headaches, but yeah, Szoboszlai, he's a makeshift right back. And I don't agree with the narrative that we shouldn't go out and sign someone, because you're not going to win a Champions League with a back line consisting of a makeshift right back, a 34-year-old centre back who, Van Dijk's still class, of course, but he's only got a year left after this season. Konate is probably going to be gone at the end of this season. Kerkez and Robbo, you need more depth. So while Szoboszlai did brilliant today, I do still want to see us go out and sign someone at right back. We can't be sort of half-arsed in the way we're approaching the market. We're not going to sign anyone before the January window closes. I think that's pretty much decided. But it's so risky to not have a full right back for the next few months and just expecting Szoboszlai to just start every game when he's so integral to midfield. The reason why we were able to control the game in midfield today is because Newcastle didn't have Joel Linton. It's because they didn't have Bruno Guimaraes. They didn't have these players who could contribute to their midfield and dominate the game like we saw in the cup final last season. Szoboszlai is integral to what we play through the middle. Having him at right back today, he put in a great performance, but it's not a long-term fix. Started slow, but did so well to get ourselves back into it. We just need consistency. Yep, consistency has been the big issue for the majority of this season. It has been about how can we get the best out of this team? How can we continue to progress? We win the occasional match, of course we do, but it's what we do afterwards. And the follow-up recently has been awful from Liverpool. That's been the big issue, is we're yet to have any sort of major convincing performance and then go into the next game with any sort of real momentum. We just haven't done it. The unbeaten run, for all that it was great to have. I'd rather that than losses. It was against teams like Barnsley. It was against Burnley. It was drawing to Leeds and Sunderland and Burnley and things like that. This is a big win for us because of who it is. And I know it's not a Newcastle team at their best. I know it's not a Newcastle team of last season or a couple of seasons ago where they were fighting for top four and they had the likes of Isak in the team who was tearing everyone apart, and Botman and Shaw were top quality defenders. And, they were dominating teams like City and Arsenal and us. But it's still a name and it's still a club that we could have very easily slipped to. We've just lost to Bournemouth, who had won 1 in 14 and were missing 7 of their first teamers, not including Antoine Semenyo. And we didn't take advantage of it. We played Newcastle today. We saw there was a weakness in midfield. We saw that there was a gap to exploit at the back in terms of the centre-backs, and we were able to stretch them. And we picked up a great result. And that's the best thing that we can ask for, because the big problem we've had is there's not been enough fight, or there's not been enough determination to try and pick up wins, or I don't know what it is. We've actually looked decent today, and that's the big thing, is the performance itself is actually class, and we haven't done that for a while. And against Newcastle, who, they can still turn teams over, they can still get a positive result against some of the weaker teams, or, they can still turn up and put in a decent performance against Arsenal or City, as we've seen this season. That's still massive for us. So to go to Anfield with all the turmoil going on, coming off the back of the Qarabag win, which people just said, well, it's Qarabag, you should be beating them. I'm happy with it. Individuals were brilliant. Konate was brilliant. Van Dijk was brilliant. The only weak link in that front line today, Salah and Gakpo, neither of them had a particularly great game, but at least Gakpo actually contributed to the attack in a certain sense. He still had shots off. He still got creative input towards the end of the second half. But Ekitike, today felt like the first match where there was a sort of, we were providing for him, and it wasn't that he was carrying those around him. It felt like everyone was on a level playing field with him. So I'm made up with that. Happy that that's the result that we were able to pick up against the Newcastle team, who they're still struggling. Let's see where they are in the table, actually, in the Premier League, because I'm pretty sure they're in the really lower regions of it at the moment. They find themselves in 10th. 10th place, Newcastle. 24 games played, 9 wins, 9 draws, 6 losses, 33 goals scored, 33 goals against. Now, they very easily could have still came in and turned us over. Like, what was Newcastle's previous results that they picked up? Obviously, drew against PSG a few days ago as proof that they can turn over anyone. PSV Eindhoven 3-0. They beat Bournemouth in the FA Cup. They beat Leeds, beat Crystal Palace. Drew 2-2 with Chelsea earlier this season, drew 2-2 with Tottenham earlier this season. They beat Man City 2-1. Just to further demonstrate that this could have easily been a banana skin for us, and it wasn't. We were able to overcome it. Cody Gakpo, let me just see if I can hit that. Cody Gakpo was great. I don't know about great, personally. He had a few flashes, but I don't really think he did anything of major sort of substance. His overall passing, 75% on average, 2 key passes. Brilliant to see. Of course, only 1 shot throughout the whole match. I don't really see what Gakpo still brings to this team that sort of warrants him starting game in, game out. I'm not overly convinced. I just think I get it. I understand that he is a player who can still be a threat and he can still shoot and he can still cause a problem directly at goal, but I'm yet to see what he offers to the rest of the team in a sort of creative sense and an attacking sense. I'm not seeing the best of him this season for me. So Gakpo was great. Maybe he was in certain perspectives. I didn't think he was that good today. I think man of the match, obviously Florian Wirtz and Ekitike get the mention, but I think Ibu today was absolutely top quality in terms of the defensive structure. We were able to build off of him. We were able to push forward from the defensive line that him and Van Dijk were creating. That Szoboszlai and Kerkez were creating. Kerkez obviously gets stood up in that sort of one-on-one situation, which leads to Gordon's goal, and we responded well. A bit of a worry there from him, but in a creative sense, he got the assist for the Ekitike goal. Ekitike's second, that long ball through, which we want to see more of that from Kerkez, or I want to see more of that from Kerkez in particular. I want to see that creativity from him. I want to see him push forward. I want to see him contribute in an attacking sense. And he hasn't been doing that because he's not been given the right to do that. He's not been given the sort of build-up to do that. He's not been given the freedom to do that. Now, in this match, he was given that opportunity and it paid off because he got the assist for Ekitike. So, yeah, made up there, was able to see that. And speaking of Ekitike, like we talked on him before, but, you know, for the last sort of like few minutes or so, there's not enough words to describe how much Ekitike this season has been a breath of fresh air. And if you think about it on paper, right, the overall stats of Ekitike, 8 goals, 2 assists in the league. If you think about it in the sort of respect of, you know, the seasons Liverpool have had in the past where you have Mane and Salah competing with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for the Golden Boot, where you look at Torres, who comes in that first season, 28 goals, I believe, Suarez, 13, 14, 31 goals, Salah, Mane, Firmino, 17, 18, like the ludicrous amount of goals they scored. If you think of it in that context, Ekitike's season has not been the greatest, but he's carried us. And he's carried a substandard Liverpool team for a lot of this season. 10 goals, 2 assists this season now, not 8. 10 goals, 2 assists in 21 Premier League matches. First player since Kenny Dalglish, as I mentioned earlier, to score in 5 separate competitions in his debut season. He's still contributing, scoring in the Champions League, Community Shield, League Cup, FA Cup. He scored in each of them. He's been so important. And he's just a focal point up top for us to focus on. He is someone to get the ball to. He is someone who can create for everyone around him. And I'm so happy that we have that focal attacking point through the middle for Liverpool once again. I'm made up that we find ourselves in that situation whereby we're not overly reliant on Salah to carry us or, you know, Mane or anything. This season, if we didn't have Ekitike, and again, he was someone who I wasn't convinced of us signing him in summer. I wasn't convinced when we got him. His stats at Frankfurt, he was in the top 7% for progressive passes, progressive carries. He was one of the top 10% of creators overall with the ball, I believe, in the attacking front line, which was brilliant, but it was just goal scoring. It was that clinical edge. Did he have that sort of, that finishing capability that we needed this season? And he's proven absolutely 100% he does. And he has scored some big goals in big moments for us so far this season. And I dread to think where we would have been if we didn't have Hugo Ekitike at this point. I really, really do. Like, the goals he scored, and he scored against Eintracht Frankfurt. He got the goal and assist against Karabag, goal and assist against Bournemouth, goal against Newcastle, goal against Everton, 2 against Leeds, 2 against Brighton, 1 against Tottenham, 2 against Newcastle, got the assist against Wolves, scored against Palace, scored an assist against Barnsley, scored against Southampton in the League Cup. He's been so important to us, and I'm made up that he's been able to integrate himself well into the team. As Ben says on Ben BLFC, what a brilliant win that was for the Reds. Vert and Ekitike, the men of the match, and a special mention to Big Ibu Konate. He was excellent tonight on a very difficult period with his father passing. Amazing goal. And yeah, made up. Absolutely ecstatic. Great win for the Reds overall. It's a further 3 points. What this does to us in the table at the moment, well, it moves Liverpool up to, let's get the more standings here. Liverpool currently find themselves in 5th. We are 1 point ahead of Manchester United, who have 1 game in hand, and that is tomorrow, and they are playing Fulham. Fulham, who happen to be 7th. A draw or a loss would see us stay ahead of them. No, a draw wouldn't. A loss to Manchester United, we would say stay in 5th place. We're 1 point behind Chelsea on 40 points in 4th, 7 behind Aston Villa in 3rd, 7 points behind City in 2nd. Look, I'm not saying that anything. That's 1 win in 5 for us in the Premier League in the last 5, 1 win. So let's not get carried away here. But City, 1 win in 5 also in the league. Who's to say that we can't keep pushing higher up the table? 4th place is a possibility, 100%. We're only 1 point behind them level on games played. Only 7 behind Villa and City. So who knows what's going to happen. Let's see what goes on from there. Everyone who is in here tonight, make sure to click like and subscribe. We are going to shoot from the late night live. I know there's a lot of people who want to, discuss this match. Let's see where we go. As Samar says, 14 off with 14 to go. I think the league title's dead and buried, but who knows? Anything could happen. It's not going to happen, let's be completely honest. But yeah, make sure to click like and subscribe on the channel here today. And just before we do, just make sure to go check out all the latest updates. So if you head over to AnfieldIndex.com, there's breaking articles on there every single day, about 15 or 20 of them. The Substack, it was always Liverpool.com. There's to find all the latest sort of opinion pieces. I'm going to be contributing on there a lot more soon, sort of top 10s. You get information from Jan Molby, who puts Substacks in there. Dr. Bart's, Greg, Ben's, plenty. Eddie in particular does some amazing articles. There's podcasts every day over on AnfieldIndex.com. I'm doing the Daily Red tomorrow at 11 a.m, so make sure you tune in for that to go over all the latest Liverpool news. We'll probably discuss the Newcastle match more in depth there as well, as we get a sort of understanding of the aftermath of it and everything. Anfield Index Pro, offering basically every single bit of information uncut. If you head over to AnfieldIndexPro.com, you get all this stuff, but with no adverts, no sort of interruptions. You get to see more of us, more of me, more of everyone. Plenty of content there. And you also have the EPLindex.com. So if you're more interested in just the sort of general football and environment, the championship, all that other stuff, head over to EPLindex.com. And their Substack, it was always football.com, not it was always Liverpool. That's it was always football.com. That's for all the sort of general football Substacks information. And then, of course, head over to the Discord community of Anfield Index. Plenty of content going up in there as well, and lots of discussion. But yes, Liverpool 4, Newcastle 1. Huge, huge result in terms of what it does for the table, for morale, for the sort of overall atmosphere. 2 goals for Ekitike, 1 for Vert, and 1 for Ibu Konate, who for me was man of the match, and a touching moment for him to be able to celebrate in front of the fans with the players, breaking down in tears. One of the highlights of the season, seeing him get that moment of sort of euphoria and, catharsis, emotional catharsis, to be able to get that goal and, not lay to rest his father, but it's very similar to Titi Kamara back when he scored against West Ham, dropping to his knees in tears because of the passing of his father. That was a massive moment for him. Alisson Becker, the goal against West Brom, huge, huge moment. And for Ibu Konate, the tragic passing of his father, which you can't really, there's some things that football in particular can sort of gloss over. It helps you forget sort of everything that's going on in your life, but that's something that he will never get over, I don't think. But for him to have that moment is huge, and I think I speak for everyone when I say we're made up for him that he's able to get that moment. So phenomenal for him. 3 points, great performance in the second half. Onwards and upwards, City next week. And make sure you tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m, for more of me on the Red Anfield Index for the Daily Red podcast. And yeah, thank you guys very much.